You mean 9? Yeah, I think we actually do have to do it.
All right, Chag Sameach will be beginning in just a minute. All right, that was a New York minute, as they say. Much to do today. Yizkor, Book of Ruth. So we're going to begin very abbreviated morning blessings. Please rise, page 10. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lasafim melechim ben yom uben layla. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam shesani betzomo. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam shesani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam shesani ben chorim. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam pokiach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam mobi sharomim. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam zokef kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam rokar art olam mayim. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam shesali kol tzarki. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam amechim tzarek gaver. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam ozir Yisrael bigvura. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam otir Yisrael b'tifara. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam anoten li'ayev koach. Maybe seated, we can turn to page 88. Hallelujah, 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 bekocho, hallelujah, berkiyahuzo, hallelujah, vigorotav, hallelujah, kerov gulo, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 b'tika shofar, hallelujah, b'nevel v'chinor, hallelujah, b'tof u'machol, hallelujah, b'minim v'ugav, hallelujah, 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 b'tziltzalei shama, hallelujah, b'tziltzalei truah, Kol Hanshama Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Hallelujah. 334. Nishmat Kol Chai Tivarech et Shimcha. Middle 336. Hagadol b'kvod shemecha, hagibor lenetzach, v'enora b'norotecha, Hamelech, hayoshev al kisei, ram v'nisa, shochen ad marom, v'kadosh shemo, v'chatuv ranu tzadikim baronai, v'sharim navat tehillah. Yesharim titkalal, u'divrei tzadikim titbarach, u'vishon chasidim titromam, u'kerev keroshim titgadash. U'makalot rivevot tamcha beit Yisrael, marin ha'yidvar shimcha makene b'chol dor v'ador, sheken chovat koytzrin lefanecha, Adonai Eloheinu v'lehei avoteinu, leodot la'aleh l'shabeach, lever l'romem lehater, Livarech leleu kaleso kol divrei shirot b'tishbachot, David ben Yishai avdecha, Meshichecha, Yishtabach shimcha le'ad malkeinu, האל המלך הגדול והקדוש בשמיים ובארץ. כי לך נאה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו. שיר ושבחה הלל וזמרה, עוז וממשלה נצח גדולה וגבורה, תהילה ותפארת קדושה ומלכות. ברכות והודאות מיטב העולם, ברוך אתה אדוני אל מלך גדול בתשבחות, אל ההודאות אדון הנפלאות, הבוחר בשירי זמרה, מלך אלכי העולמים. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ועמד יברח חירותי וימליך מלכותי, וחייכון וביומכון חי לכל בית ישראל, בגלה בזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם עולם מעלמיה יתברך. יתברך וישתבח, יתבר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה, שמי לקודשה ברכו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תרוש בחתה ונחמתה, במירון בעלמה ואמרו amen. Please rise for the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai Barach Leolam Va'ed. May be seated, Baruch Adonai Lenem Achalam. Yotzar V'rei Choshech, Oseh Shalom V'rei Et HaKol. 342, bottom. May hear their hearts for the Ribalei Abraham. Tiparach tzuvenu malkeinu v'goalenu b'odei kidoshim yishtabach shimcha le'ad malkeinu. Yotzer v'shachar וכולם פותחים את פיהם בקדושת תורה, בשירה ובזמרה, מברכים ומשבחים ומפארים, מריצים ומקדישים וממליכים את שם האל המלך הגדול הגדול נורא הקדוש הוא. וכולם מקבלים עליהם ומלכות שמיים זה מזה, ונותנים רשות זה לזה, ולהקדיש עצמם בנחת רוח, בספרה ורב ונימה, קדושה כולם כחרונים ואומרים וירא קדוש קדוש קדוש, אדוני צבאות בכל הארץ כבודו. ואפילו בקודש רעש גדול מנסים למצרפים, למטלם משבחים, ואומרים ברוך כבוד אדוני, במקומו לא ברוך לימוד ייתנו. חדשות ציון תראה ונזכה כולנו מהרעלו, ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר מאורות, אהבתנו אדוני אלוהינו, חמלה גדולה ותורה חמלת עלינו. אבינו מלכנו בעבור אבותינו, שברכו בך אבינו מלכנו. ותלמדם חוקי חיים, כן תכוננו תלמדנו, אבינו האב הרחמן, המרחם רחם עלינו. ותן בלבנו להבין ולהשכיל לשמוע, ללמוד וללמד, לשמור ולעשות, ולקיים כל דברי תלמוד תורתך באהבה, והאר עינינו בתורתך, ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך, וייחל לבבינו לאהבה, וירא את שמך, ולא נבוש לעולם ועד, ולא נבוש לעולם ועד, כי בשם קודשך הגדול והנורא פתחנו, נגילה ונשמחה בישועתך. והביאנו לשלום מארבע כנפות הארץ, ותוליכנו קוממיות לארצנו. כי אל פועל ישועות אתה, ובנו בחרת מכל עם ולשון, וקרבתנו לשמך הגדול סלע, באמת להודות לך ולייחדך ולייחדך באהבה, ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר במו ישראל באהבה. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בהם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאור על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך בים. Continuing silently. For our greeters, as David and Jennifer entered through the mystery way, that's who that is, so you can check them off. ולמען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים אלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. לדור דור קיים ושמו קיים, וכיסון אחר ומלכותו ואמונתו ליד קיים, ודבריו חיים וקיימים. אמת שאתה אדוני אלוהינו ולאבותינו, מלכנו מלך אבותינו, גואלנו גואל אבותינו, יוצאנו צור ישועתנו, בנינו מצאנו מלם שמך, אלוהים זולתך, עזרת אבותינו אתה ומעולם, הגידו אשר לפניהם אחריהם בכל דור ודור. הלל היום ברוך ומבורך, משה בן ישראל חנו שירה בשמחה רבה, ואמרו כולם מי כמוך, באלים אדוני מי כמוך, נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא. שירה חדשה, שירו גאולים, לשמך על שפת הים יחד כולם, הודו והמליכו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. צור ישראל, קומה בעזרת ישראל, ובדי חינומך יהודה וישראל. גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו קדוש ישראל, ברוך אתה אדוני God Yisrael. Private Amidah, page 366 for festival mornings. 366.
We've got the repetition of the Amidah back on page 366. Adonai sifata tiftach ufi agid tehilatecha baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Koneh Hakol v'Zocher Chasdei Avot Mevi Goel Livnei B'neihem L'man Shemo Be'ava Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen Baruch Atah Adonai Magen Avraham U'Foket Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechayim Eitim Atah Rav Le'Hoshia Mechalken Chayim B'Chesed Mechayim Eitim B'Rachamim Rabim Zomech Noflim V'Rofech Olim Umatir Asurim Umekayim Emunato Lishene Afar Michamo Chabal Gevurot Umito Melach Melech Memit Umechaye Umatmiach Yeshua Beneman Atal Chayot Meitim Baruch Atah Adonai Mechaye HaMeitim. We rise for the Kedusha 368. וקדש את שמך בעולם כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, כך כתוב ביד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות לכל הארץ כבודו. אז בקול רעש גדול, אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול, מתעשים למצרפים, נעמתם ברוך יאמרו, ברוך כבוד אדוני במקומו. במקומך מלכנו תופיח ותמלך עלינו, כי מחכים אנחנו לך. מתי תמלך בציון בקרוב לעולם ועד תשכון, תקרב ותקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך, לדור ודור לנצח נצחים, ועינינו תראה את מלכותך, כדבר אמור בשירי עוזך, על ידי דוד משיח צדקך, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה, לדור ודור. נגידות לך לנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. ושפך עלינו מפילו ימוש לעולם ועד, כמלך גדול קדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. You may be seated. אתה בחרתנו מכל העמים, אהבת אותנו ורצית בנו, ורוממתנו מכל לשונות, וקידשתנו במצוותיך. וקרבתנו מלכנו לעבודתך, בשמך הגדול והקדוש עלינו קראת. אתה
בחרתנו, אתה בחרתנו מכל העמים, מכל העמים. אהבת אותנו ורצית בנו, אהבת אותנו ורצית בנו, ורוממתנו מכל הלשונות, וקידשתנו במצוותיך, וקרבתנו מלכנו לעבודתך, וקרבתנו מלכנו לעבודתך, בשמך הגדול, הגדול והקדוש, עלינו, עלינו כתרת. Ay 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 nay 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 ay ay nay 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 ata b'chartanu mikol ha'amim v'titin lanu Adonai Eloheinu b'ava moadim l'simcha chagim uzmanim l'sasom et yom chag Shavuot hazeh zman matan torotenu mikra koroshecha l'tziat mitzrayim Eloheinu v'lavotenu yaldev le'avo v'yakia v'erev yiratzeiv shama yivaked yisacher zichronenu ufik donenu v'zichron avotenu v'zichron Mashiach ben David abdecha v'zichron Yerushalayim ir kodshecha v'zichron kol amcha beit Yisrael lefanecha ufleta l'tova l'chen chesed rachamim l'chaim u'shalom bayom chag HaShavuot hazeh זוכרנו אדוני אלוהינו בו לטובה, ופוקדנו בו לברכה, והושיענו בו לחיים. ובדבר ישועה, ברחמים חוץ וחנו, ורחם עלינו והושיענו, כי אליך עינינו, כי על מלך חנון ברכו אתה. ועשי אדוני אלוהינו, את ברכת מועדיך לחיים ושלום, לשמחה וששון. כאשר רצית ואמרת לברכנו, אלוהינו ולאבותינו, קדשנו במצוותיך, ותקלתנו בתורתך, סבנו בטובך ושמחנו בישועתך, ותאר לבנו לעבדך באמת. ברך לנו רעי אלוהינו, בשמחה וששון, מועדי קודשך, וישמחו בך ישראל מקדשי שמך, ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש ישראל בך הזמנים. רוצה אדוני אלוהינו, בעמך ישראל, ותפילתם בשם עבודה, לביר ביתך, ותפילתם באהבת, תהי לרצון תמיד עבודת ישראל עמך, תחזינה עינינו, בשובך לציון ברחמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, המחזיר שכינתו לציון, מודים אנחנו לך. מדוך הסלע, ולא שמך באמת, ישועתנו וישועתנו הסלע, ברוך אתה אדוני, עטו שמך לכן להודות, לכן לאבותינו, ברכנו בברכה המשולשת בתורה הכתובה על ידי משה עבדך, האמורה מפי אהרון ובניו, האמורה מפי אהרון ובניו, האמורה מפי אהרון ובניו, כהנים עם קדושך כאמור, יברך אדוני וישמרך, יאר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונך, ושא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך שלום. שים שלום, טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל ישראל עמך. ברכנו אבינו כולנו כאחד באור פניך, כי באור פניך נתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו. שים שלום ועולם טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל ישראל עמך, לתורת חיים ואהבת חסד ואהבת חסד וצדקה וברכה ורחמים וחיים ושלום. שים שלום ועולם טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל ישראל עמך. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. ברוך אתה אדוני, ברך את עמו ישראל בשלום. Please rise. 380. Hallel. Hallel. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher קידשנו מצוותיו וציוונו לקרוא את ההלל. הללויה. הללו עבדי אדוני. הללו את שם אדוני. יהי שם אדוני מבורך מעתה ועד עולם. ממזרח שמש עד מבוא מהולל שם אדוני. רם על כל גויים אדוני על השמיים כבודו. מכאדוני אלוהינו המביא לשבת המשפילי לראות בשמיים ובארץ. מקימים מעפר דל מאשפות ירים אביון להושיבים נדיבים עם נדיבי עמו. מושיבי עקרת הבית עם אבנים שמחה. הללויה, 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 הללויה. בצאת ישראל ממצרים בית יעקב מעם לועז הייתה יהודה לקודשו. ישראל ממשלותיו הים רעה וינוס הירדן ייסוב לאחור הערים רקדו כאלים גבעות כבני צאן בצאת ישראל ממצרים בית יעקב מעם לועז. מלך הים כי תנוס הירדן תיסוב לאחור הערים תרקדו כאלים גבעות כבני צאן מלפני אדון כולי ארץ מלפני אלוהי יעקב ההופכי צור עד גם מים חלמיש למים ומים. לא לנו אדוני לא לנו כי לשמך תן כבוד על חסדך על עמיתך. ישראל בטח באדוני עזרם ומגינם הוא. בית אהרון בטחו אדוני עזרם ומגינם הוא. ירא אדוני בטחו אדוני עזרם ומגינם הוא. אדוני זכרנו יברך, יברך את בית ישראל, יברך את בית אהרון, יברך יראי אדוני, הקטנים עם הגדולים, יוסף אדוני עליכם, עליכם ועל בניכם, ברוכים אתם לאדוני, עושה שמיים בארץ, השמיים שמיים לאדוני, והארץ נתן לבני אדם, לא המתים יהללויה, ולא כל יורדי דומה, ואנחנו נברך יה, מעתה ועד עולם, מעתה ועד עולם, הללויה. הבטיחי ישמע. אתהלך לפני אדוני בארצות חיים, האמנתי כי אדבר, אני עניתי מאוד, אני אמרתי בחופשי, כל האדם כזה, מאשיף אדוני. נדרה אדוני שלם נגענה לכל עמו, בחצרות בית אדוני בתוככי ירושלים, הללויה, הללו את אדוני, כל גויים, שבחוהו, שבחוהו, כל העמים, כי גבר עלינו חסדו, ואמת אדוני לעולם, הללויה. הודו לאדוני כי טוב, הודו לאדוני כי טוב, כי לעולם חסדו. יאמר נא ישראל, יאמר נא ישראל, כי לעולם חסדו. יאמרו נא בית אהרון, יאמרו נא בית אהרון, כי לעולם חסדו. יאמרו נא יראי אדוני, יאמרו נא יראי אדוני, כי Kinelam chasdo, mina metzar karatia, anani va merchavia, mina metzar karatia, anani va merchavia, nani lo irama yasedi adam. Ozi v'zimratya vayili lishua. Ozi v'zimratya vayili lishua. Piruli share tzedek avovam odea. Piruli share tzedek avovam odea. Ze hashar l'Adonai tzadikim yavovo. Ze hashar l'Adonai tzadikim yavovo. Odecha ki anitani v'te'ili lishua. Odecha ki anitani v'te'ili lishua. Even masu habonim hayeta l'rosh bina. Even masu habonim hayeta l'rosh bina. Me'et Adonai hayta zot hi niflat be'enenu. Me'et Adonai hayta zot hi niflat be'enenu. Ze hayom asra Adonai nagila v'nismecha bo. Ze hayom asra Adonai nagila v'nismecha bo. Anarei Hoshiana, Anarei Hoshiana, Anarei Hatzlichana, Anarei Hatzlichana. Baruch haba b'shem Adonai, baruch mibeit Adonai, baruch haba b'shem Adonai, baruch mibeit Adonai. El Adonai v'yerlanu, Yisru chag bavotim ad karno hamizbeach, Yisru chag bavotim ad karno hamizbeach. Eliata ve'odeka, Elohai aromimeka. Eliata ve'odeka, Elohai aromimeka. Odu l'Adonai ki tov, ki le'olam chasdo. Odu l'Adonai ki tov, ki le'olam chasdo. Ki lecha tov lahod, u'shimcha na'el lezamer, ki me'olam ad olam ata el, baruch ata Adonai, melech me'olal batishbacho. 392, Yikarav Yikarav Shemei Rabbah, Yamani Rachir Tevam Lich Malchut Teva Chayechon, Yamachon V'Chaynom, Hobeit Yisrael, Bagalav Izman Kari V'imeru, Amen, Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevorach, Ve'olam Kulal Me'amaya Yitbarach, Yitbarach V'Shtabach V'Barach V'Ram V'Naseh, V'Tadar V'Dalei V'Talal Shmei Kudsha, Rivu, Le'lam Yikol B'Chata V'Shiratat, V'Chata V'Nechamata Damiram Yama V'imeru, Tikabal Sultan Voton the Israel, Kanabah Divishmai Vimeru, Ishlam Rabin Shemai, Kaimon of Koisra Vimeru, Ose Shalom Bimramav, Uya Ase Shalom, Alenu, Yako Israel, Yako Yoshvei Tevel, Vimeru, Amen. 394, Torah service. Marshall and Susan will be helping, taking out Torahs, opening arks, etc., etc. Ein kamocha va'elohim Adonai ve'ein kema'asecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim u'memshaltecha bechol dor v'ador Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai yimloch ve'olam va'en Adonai otem lo yitein Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom Avarachamim Eitiva virtzon et Zion Tivnei Homot Yerushalayim Tivnei Homot Yerushalayim Ki vecha levad v'atachnu Melech el ram ben Yisra Adon Olamim. We rise, the ark is open. Vayivin Zoharon, Vayomer Moshe, Kuma Adonai, Ve'afutzu oivecha, Venusu misanecha mipanecha. Ki mitzion tetze Torah. Ki mitzion tetze Torah. Udevar Adonai Yerushalayim. Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah. Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah. Le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'Chanun, Erech Hapayim, V'Rav Chesed v'Emet, Yotzer Chesed v'Alavim, Nosei Avon v'Afesha v'Chata v'Nakeh. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'Chanun, Erech Hapayim, V'Rav Chesed v'Emet, Yotzer Chesed l'Alafim, Nosei Avon v'Afesha v'Chata v'Nakeh. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'Chanun, Erech Hapayim, V'Rav Chesed v'Emet, Yotzer Chesed l'Alafim, Nosei Avon v'Afesha v'Chata v'Nakeh. Benakeh. Was that 2 or 3?
That was 3.
Okay. Benakeh. I just wanted God's compassion to linger a little longer. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu
Gadol Adonai Iti Oneromah Shemo Yachdav. Lecha Adonai Hagidula v'Hagivura v'Hatiferet v'Hanetzach v'Hahod Ki ho b'shamayim v'haaretz Ki kol b'shamayim v'haaretz Lecha Adonai HaMamlacha v'Ami Yinaseh Lecho Lerosh Romebu Adonai Eloheinu v'Ishtachavu v'Hadom Romebu, Adonai Eloheinu, Ve'ishtachavu le'ar kodsho, Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Now, Marshall and Susan, you get to sit down for a moment, so cover that up, because the Torah goes out, but the book of Ruth is read now.
Okay.
Then we read the Torah. I know that's a bizarre way, but I'm pretty sure that's what the Luach says. If not,
It says it now.
Yeah, exactly. It says it now. So, we're going to read the book of Ruth. It is one of the 5 Megillot read on the various Chagim, including Tisha B'Av, Lamentations, Esther, on Purim. We have Song of Songs on Passover, and we have Kohelet, Ecclesiastes on Sukkot. Ruth we have on Shavuot because, first of all, it takes place during the harvest season, and they believe that refers to Shavuot, but also because Ruth accepts the Torah willingly. More willingly than we did, in fact, at Mount Sinai, with the mountain hanging above our heads, as the Midrash says. Ruth just accepted it. And Deborah Hoffman-Wade is going to be reading the book of Ruth. And also want to just mention, I had a class, I still have a class going of conversion students this year, Ruth being considered the ultimate convert. And it's quite a class. It's just, despite the increase in anti-Semitism over the world, people still, and in America, people still want to be Jewish. And we have people age ranging from 20 to 60. We have single people. We have married people. We have Jews of color. We have people who've been living Jewish lives and raising Jewish families for a couple decades or more than a decade anyway. And we have those who are brand new to Judaism. We also have 3 people named Ali. So it's quite a class. Although not all of the Alis, some of the Alis are already Jewish, but their maybe fiance isn't. So it's all over the place, but it's been thrilling. And so I always love having the book of Ruth read. It reminds me of these incredible people that we have becoming Jewish. Anyway, you can bear that in mind, or you can just think about the Harvest Festival, or the Torah, or the great semi-erotic love story that is indeed the book of Ruth. So Deborah Hoffman-Wade has graciously volunteered to read it. I'm just going to read it from up there. Oh, wait. Thank you. It's actually, she's not reading the whole Megillah. She's reading what is in the Sim Shalom. And that we can find on page 790. 790 to follow along. 790.
And as a Jew of choice, this is a great honor and blessing. Thank you, Rabbi. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land, and a man from Bethlehem in Judah went to live in the country of Moab with his wife and 2 sons. The man's name was Elimelech. His wife's name was Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons were Machlon and Chilion. Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. They married Moabite women, one named Orpah and the other named Ruth. After they had lived there for about 10 years, the 2 of them, Machlon and Chilion, also died, so that the woman was bereft of her husband and her 2 sons. With her 2 daughters-in-law, she left the place where she had been living, and they set out on the road back to the land of Judah. Naomi then said to her 2 daughter-in-laws, "Turn back, each of you, to your mother's house. May the Lord deal kindly with you, as you have dealt kindly with the dead and with me. May the Lord grant that each of you find security in the house of her husband." Then she kissed them. They wept aloud, and they said to her, "No, we will return with you to your people." But Naomi replied, "Go back, my daughters. Why should you come with me? Have I more sons in the womb that may become your husbands?" They wept out loud again. Orpah kissed her mother-in-law in farewell, but Ruth clung to her. Then Naomi said, "You see that your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and back to her gods. Go back with your sister-in-law." But Ruth replied, "Entreat me not to leave you, to go back and not follow you. Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you stay, will I stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Wherever you die, will I die, and beside you will I be buried. I vow that only death will separate me from you." When Naomi saw that Ruth was determined to go with her, she said no more, and the 2 of them walked on until they reached Bethlehem. Now Naomi had a kinsman on her husband's side, a man of wealth from Elimelech's family, whose name was Boaz. Ruth the Moabite said to Naomi, "Allow me to go into the fields to glean among the ears of grain behind someone with whom I may find favor." And she replied, "Go, my daughter." So she went and came to glean in a field behind the reapers. As it happened, it was part of the field belonging to Boaz, who was Elimelech's family. Just then Boaz arrived from Bethlehem. He greeted the reapers, "May the Lord be with you." And they responded, "May the Lord bless you." Then Boaz asked his servant who was in charge of the reapers, "Whose girl is this?" The servant in charge of the reapers replied, "She is the Moabite girl who came back with Naomi from the country of Moab. She asked to be allowed to glean and gather among the sheaves behind the reapers. She had been on her feet ever since morning with hardly a moment's rest." Then Boaz said to Ruth, "Listen, my daughter, glean in no other field. Do not look elsewhere, but stay here close to my girls. Keep your eyes on the field that they are reaping and follow them. I have forbidden the young men to molest you. Wherever you are thirsty, go and drink from the jars what the young men have drawn." She fell on her face to the ground before him and said, "Why have I found favor with you, that you take notice of me, though I am only a foreigner?" And Boaz replied, "I have been told about all that you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of her husband, how you left your father and mother and your native land to come to the people you had not known before. May the Lord reward your deed. May you be richly rewarded by the Lord God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to shelter." And she answered, "I am grateful to find favor with you, sir. You have comforted me by speaking kindly to your maidservant, even though I am not one of your maidservants." One day Naomi, Ruth's mother-in-law, said to her, "My daughter, I must see you happily settled. There is a kinsman, Boaz. You have been close to his girls. He is winnowing barley at the threshing floor tonight. Bathe and anoint yourself, dress yourself, and go down to the threshing floor. But do not make yourself known to the man until he has finished eating and drinking. When he lies down, take note of the place where he lies. Then go, uncover his feet, and lie down. He will tell you what to do." Ruth replied, "All that you say will I do." She went down to the threshing floor and did just as her mother-in-law had told her. Boaz ate and drank, and in the happy mood he went to lie down before the heap of grain. She came in quietly, turned back the covering at his feet, and lay down. In the middle of the night the man gave a start and bent forward. There was a woman lying at his feet. He asked, "Who are you?" She replied, "I am Ruth, your maidservant. Spread your robe over your maidservant, for you are my redeeming kinsman." He said, "May the Lord bless you, my daughter. The latest kindness is greater than your purse, for you have not sought out young men, whether rich or poor. And now, my daughter, have no fear. I will do all that you ask. Everyone knows how worthy a woman you are. It is true that I am near kinsman. However, there is another kinsman even nearer than I. Stay the night here. Then in the morning, if he is willing to act as your redeeming kinsman, well and good. Let him do it. But if he is not willing to act as your redeeming kinsman, I will do so myself, as surely as the Lord lives. Now lay down until morning." Boaz later went up to the city gate and sat down there. When the kinsman of whom Boaz had spoken passed by, Boaz cried out, calling him by name, "Turn aside here and sit down." He turned aside and sat down. Then Boaz stopped 10 of the town elders and asked them to sit as well, and they did. Boaz said to his kinsman Naomi, who has returned from the country of Moab, must sell the plot of land which belonged to our kinsman Elimelech. I promise to discuss this matter with you and ask you to acquire it in the presence of those who are seated here and in the presence of the elders of my people. If you are willing to do your duty as kinsman, then do it. If you are not willing to do so, tell me that I may know, for there is no one but you to act as redeemer, and I am in line after you. The man answered, I am willing to act as redeemer. Then Boaz said, when you acquire the field of Naomi, you acquire Ruth the Moabite, the widow of the dead man, in order to perpetuate the name of the dead together with his inheritance. The kinsman replied, then I cannot redeem it, lest I impair my own inheritance. You may take over my duty of redemption as kinsman, for I am unable to act. Boaz declared to the elders and to all the people, you are witnesses today that I am acquiring from Naomi all that belonged to Elimelech, and all that belong to Chilion and Nachlon. I am also acquiring Nachlon's wife, Ruth the Moabite, to be my wife in order to perpetuate the name of the dead together with his inheritance, that his name will not perish from among his kindred or from the gate of his native place. You are witnesses of this today. Then the elders and all the people at the gate said, "We are witnesses. May the Lord make the woman who is coming into your house like Rachel and Leah, who together built the house of Israel. May prosperity be yours in Ephrathah and renown in Bethlehem. May your house flourish like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah, through the offspring which the Lord will give you with this young woman." So Boaz married Ruth, and she became his wife. And when they came together, the Lord caused her to conceive, and she bore Boaz a son. And then the women said to Naomi, "Praise be the Lord, for this day he has provided you with a redeeming kinsman. May his name be renowned in the house of Israel. This child will renew your life and will nourish you in your old age, for he is born of your daughter-in-law, who loves you and who is better to you than 7 sons." Naomi took the child and held it to her bosom. She became its nurse, and the women, her neighbors, gave him a name. "A son is born for Naomi," they said, "and they will call him Obed. He was the father of Jesse, the father of David."
Yachakoa.
Thank you so much, Deborah. Beautifully read, and I was crying when you were reading the "Wherever You Go, I Will Go." All right, so we're now going to get some Torah read. And Susan Simon is our Torah reader today. Marshall Langfeld will be doing the Gabaying, Shomering, and also he's going to have the first Aliyah too. So I'm going to go ahead and call him. I got to get you. Sure, I'll take that. If we're offering it, and I got to tell you where to go. So
to speak.
So before I do that, we're going to be reading from Deuteronomy 1080, page 1080, Deuteronomy 15, 19 through 23. It's basically all the stuff about the various Chagim in Deuteronomy, but it starts with the sacrifice of the firstborn in terms of cattle. Next, why don't you go on the other side, just because then otherwise he blocks you.
Okay.
So, Akol v'godeleinu ukavod laTorah Kohen Karav Meir ben Yehuda HaKohen Rokshan Torah l'Yisrael b'Kedushato V'atem ha'nevakim b'Adonai Elohechem Chayim kolchem hayom.
Baruch Adonai Hamorah.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Vaed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'karban mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Kol bechor asher yibeled bivkarcha u'betzonecha b'zachar takdish l'Adonai Elohecha lo tavod bivchor shorecha v'lo takoz b'chor tzonecha livnei Adonai Elohecha tochlenu shana b'shana b'makom asher yibchar Adonai ata v'techa v'chi yevomu Pisech oiver kol mura lo tizkachenu l'Adonai Elohecha v'sharecha tochlenu atamei v'hatachriachta katzvi v'chayal roket amo lo tochel haaretz tishbechenu hamayim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah nefesh haolam natan b'tocheinu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Now the other aliyot are going to come over here by the microphones, and whichever one was used last, use the other one. And for the second aliyah, it's chapter 16, verses 1 through 3, about Pesach, and we call upon Sid Levy for the second aliyah. I doubt we have his Hebrew name over there, so tell us your Hebrew name. Stephen Hirschlev Halevi.
Ya'amod Stephen Hirschlev Halevi.
Baruch Adonai HaBarak.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher lo karvanu b'kol amim v'natan lanu et Torah v'emet. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Shamor et chodesh Aviv, v'yasita Pesach l'Adonai Elohecha, ki b'chodesh Aviv hotziacha Adonai Elohecha mimitzrayim laila, v'zavachta Pesach l'Adonai Elohecha tzunu bakar, v'makom asher yibchar Adonai l'shaken shmo sham, lo tochal alav chametz, shivat yamim tochal alav matzot lechem oni, ki b'chipatzon yatzata me'eretz Mitzrayim, l'man tizkor et yom simcha me'eretz Mitzrayim, kol yemei chayecha.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher lo karvanu b'kol amim v'natan olam notan b'sepeinu. Baruch atah noten haTorah.
Amen.
Yashikroah. Chapter 16, verses 4 through 8, the laws of specifically the Korban Pesach, the Passover sacrifice. David and Jennifer, you probably don't have their Hebrew names either.
David, probably.
Yep. Okay, so Yondu, Zina Rachel, but
Yandu, Zina Rachel, Bat Shlomo, Vaviva, David ben Shaftahari Halevi, Shlishi.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Amen. V'lo yireh lecha se'ur b'chol gevulacha shivat yamim, v'lo yalid min habasar asher tizbach ba'erev v'yom harishon laboker. Lo tuchal lizboch et hapasach ve'echad sharecha asher Adonai Elohecha noten lach. Ki melamakom asher yibchar Adonai Elohecha l'shaken shmo sham tizbach et hapesach ba'arev kavo hashemesh moed tzitcha mimitzrayim u'vishalta v'yachalta b'makom asher yibchar Adonai Elohecha bo u'fanita b'boker v'halachta li'ohalecha shishet yamim tochal matzot וביום השביעי עצרת לאדוני אלוהיך לא תעשה מלאכה. Amen.
All right, we have 9 through 12, the counting of the Omer and Shavuot.
Ta'amad, Yehudit Bat Yisrael V'chaya Revi'i.
I should be doing this.
Baruch Adonai HaBarak.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaBarak Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher b'chavanu mikol ha'amim v'notan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Shiva Shavuot Tizbalach Be'achel Chamesh Bakama Techel Yizkor Shiva Shavuot Ve'asita Chag Shavuot Adonai Elohecha Misad Nidbat Yedecha Asher Titen Kasher Yivarechecha Adonai Elohecha V'samachta Lifnei Adonai Elohecha Ata ובנך ובנתך, ויעבדך ויאמתך, והלוי אשר בשעריך, והגר, והיתום והאלמנה אשר בקרבך, במקום אשר יבחר אדוני אלוהיך, לשכן שמו שם. וזכרת כי עבד היית במצרים, ושמרת ועשית את החוקים האלה.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah temet, v'chayei olam natan b'tzachenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Yizkor. All right, the fifth Aliyah, we are now back to Sukkot, verses 13 through 17, chapter 16, verses 13 through 17.
Yamod Moshe ben Nachman ve'Esther Chamishi.
Finally got one on the list there.
Baruch Adonai Habarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Elam Vayed.
Baruch Adonai Habarach Elam Vayed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher b'chavanu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. חג הסוכות תעשה לך 7 ימים, ועוס בך מגרונך ומגבך, ושמחת בחגיך, הטוב איתך וביתך ויעבדך ויאמתך, והלוי והגר, והיתום והאלמנה אשר בשעריך, 7 ימים, תחוג לאדוני אלוהיך, במקום אשר יבחר אדוני, כי יברכך אדוני אלוהיך, בכל תבואתך ובכל מעשה ידיך, והיית אך שמח. 3 פעמים בשנה יראה כל זכורך את פני אדוני אלוהיך, במקום אשר יבחר, בחג המצות ובחג השבועות ובחג הסוכות, ולא יראה את פני אדוני ריקם, איש כמתנת ידו כברכת אדוני אלוהיך אשר נתן לך.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah temet, v'chayei olam natan b'tzachenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Yizkor. The second scroll is moved and Hatzi Kaddish will be recited. We're not going to Hagban Galila that first scroll. We might not even do the second scroll. If Marshall wants to, he can. Please rise for the Hatzi Kaddish.
Yikada v'yikada shemei Rabba.
Amen.
Madivra pirtei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayet onu v'yomecha v'chayet et kol beit Yisrael. Bagala bagala u'bizman karim meru.
Amen. Shmei Rabba Mevorach, V'yavamo me'omaya Yitbarach.
Yitarach v'yishtabach v'yitar v'yirman v'yinaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei l'kudashah
V'yifu.
Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata
V'shvechata v'nechemata Na'amir v'yama.
v'yimaru.
Amen.
All right, we can be seated abbreviated, we're going to go to page 932. 932, the Maftir reading is the additional offering that we brought on Shavuot. It's chapter 28, verse 26. And our Maftir Aliyah, Steve, you're going to do it from up there where you'll also be reading the Haftorah. So we can go mask off behind that screen and everything. Verse 26, page 932, on the day of first fruits.
Ya'amot Shavuot ben Fadal v'Sara Dina Hamatir.
Give me 1 second. I'm sure I'll get mine at Oh, here it is, down here. Okay, good. Okay, wait a sec.
Baruch hu et Adonai HaMorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher b'kar b'ayim miko amin v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen. Amen. Uvyom ha'bikurim v'hikrafem mincha chadasha l'Adonai v'shavuotechem mikra kodesh yeh lachem kol melechet avodah lo ta'asu v'hikraftem olah l'reach nichoach l'Adonai parim b'nei bakar shnayim ha'il echad shiva chavasim b'nei shana ומנחתם סולה בלולב השבת שלושה עשרונים לפר האחד שני עשרונים לאיל האחד עשרון לכבש האחד לשבעת הכבשים זעיר עזים אחד לכפר עליכם מלבד עולד התמיד ומנחתו תעשו תמימים יהיו לכם ונזכיהם.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher natan lanu Torah emet. V'chayei olam natan v'tachenu. Baruch Atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen.
Yashikroah. All right, so. Inclusive Mishaberach for all who read. Mishaberach Amatinu Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov Sarv Karach Avleah Yivrech Kroker Mashalu Hechnom Nakvon HaMakom Likvor HaTorah Likvor HaRegel HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yivrech Otam Yit Mishpachotam Vayishlach Rav Atzacha B'chol Masei Yadim Kol Shoyachem V'nomar Amen. For those who are ill, Mishaberach Amatinu Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov Sarv Karach Avleah Yivrech Yoteat Achulim. May God bless and heal all those who are sick, including Scott Lawrence, Dalia Bat Razel, Azan Shlomo Natan Ben Nechama, Sima Sar Bat Mariam Chana, Barbara Rose, Lou Burl, Ilya Oak, Arlene Miller, Pastor Karen Stepko, Karina Gola Bat Hadav Yehuda Tzvi, Lehudit Bat Shena, Shabtai Dov Ben Shimon Moshe, Francis Block, Shraga Andel Ben Ruth, Emmanuel Ben Sarah, Esther Malka Bat Sala, Ray Ranshaw, Valerie Levy, Missy Rosen, Albert Alter, Rosie Gurman, Bob Rasters, Justin Hardy, Leah Bat Shimon Lazar, Yachiel Ben Lisa, Julia Maldonado. If you have any other names, please go ahead and say them out loud at this time. Kadosh Baruch Hu Yimlei Rachamim Aleim L'Chazkam Rav L'Tam V'Yishlach Lem Refuah Shlema L'Bobrim V'Yihem Tuksha Chalei Yisrael Nefesh V'Kaguf Yom Tov Hu Milizo Refuah Krova L'Avoshta V'Aglav Yisman Karev V'Nomar Amen. May God bless and heal all those who are sick, and may we continue to be with them in their time of need. All right, let me grab the Chumash again for talking Haftorah. The Haftorah comes from Habakkuk, and it can be found on page 1326, 1326. It begins with the phrase, God is in God's holy abode, or as the old Reform hymnal used to say, God is in his holy temple. It's a big choir song in the early part of the 20th century in Reformed temples. Its connection with Shavuot is tenuous. Basically, according to Midrash Sifrei to Deuteronomy, when Habakkuk says God comes from Teman, which is in the south, it's a reference to Mount Sinai, where the Torah was given. Nevertheless, besides that line about God being in the holy place and us being humble or silent as a result of that, another beautiful line, though the fig tree does not bud and no yield is on the vine, yet I will rejoice in Hashem. This is a haftarah about God's glory in the midst of trouble and distress, and we get to read from a prophet that otherwise you may never have heard of, Habakkuk. So, thank you, Stephen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nbiim tovim v'ratzah b'divreihem hanemarim v'ed. Baruch atah Adonai abocher b'torah u'bosher ado u'v'Yisrael amo u'v'yeh ha'emet v'tzedek. Tfilah Habakkuk hanavi al shkino Adonai Shemati Shemacha Yiraeti Adonai Alcha Bekerev Shanim Chayehu Bekerev Shanim Todiyah Beroges Rachem Tizkor Eloha Niteman Yavo Bekadosh Meher Paran Sela Tisa Shamayim Hodo Utyato Belaharetz Benoga Kaortiyeh Karnaim Yado Lichlo Visham Chevyon Muzah Lefana Yelech Daver Etzei Reshev Leragla Amahad V'yam Moder Eretz Rahat Yater goyim, yikatzatzu harei shafu, yimot olam, alichot olam lo. Tachalaven, vayita achalei fushal, yirgatzu yirahod, eretz Midian. Harim, Hara Adonai, Yichavim Hafer Abecha, Imayam Avratecha, Tartilkav Al Susecha, Barkotecha Yeshua, Arya Teor Tashtecha, Shvomato Tomarsela, Naharotika Aretz, Rauf Hayachki, Luharim, Seremahim Avar, Natan, Om Kala, Ruhum Yedehum Nasar, Shemesh Areyah, Amazullah, Itzecha Yelchu, Lenoga, Irak, Henitecha, Bizahan, Titzad, Aretz, Ve'av, Tadush Goyim, Yatzata, Yesheyamecha, Yesha, Et Yishecha, Mechatzta, Rosh, Beit Rasha Arod Yesod Tzavur Tzela Lekavta Etam Imatav Rosh Parza Yisrael Lechavitzeni Ali Elutzatam Kmola Echolani Amistar Dirachtava Yam Susefa Chomer Maim Ravim Shamati Vetir Gazbini Lekol Sadalus Chatai Yehorakah Da'atsamai V'tachtai Ergaz Asher Noach Le'yom Tzara Le'olam La'amo La'am Yugedenu Kitena Litifra Ve'en Yavum Bakfanim Kifesh Vasezayi Ushpemo Lo Asa Ofel Gaza Lilahat Sohom Ve'en Bakar Barfatim Ve'ani Ve'ana Eloza Agila Elohei Sheli Adonai Elohim Cheli V'yiseh Like Ayalo Ve'adonai Yiracheni Lemenatzeya V'ningotai Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Sur kol amim tzadik b'chol adoroh Ha'el ha'neman ha'omer b'yosef Amdaber u'mkayim Shekol dvarav v'mevatzedek Ne'eman atahu Adonai Eloheinu V'ne'emanim dvarecha V'davar echad b'dvarecha Achor lo yashuv rekam Ki el melech ne'eman v'chol atah Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'elamam b'chol dvarav. Rachem al Zion, ki hu beit chayenu, u'lavat nefesh toshia b'vira b'yameinu. Baruch atah Adonai, v'samech Zion b'vanecha. Samcheinu Adonai Eloheinu, v'Eliyahu hanavi yavdecha, u'malchut beit David neshichecha. B'mihira yavo v'yagel libenu, Al Chisolo Yeshu Zahar, Lo Yichalu Od Acherim Et Kevodo, Ki V'Shem Kanchecha Nishba'talo, Shelo Yichlen Yero Le'lam Vo'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen David.
I think that's it, right?
Allah Torah.
There we go.
Ya Avodah, Ya Navi, Ya Yom Shabbat, Shabbat Havel, Zmanim, Et Shabbat. See here.
It's very confusing right now.
Allah Torah, Ya Avodah, Ya Navi, Ya Yom. Shavuot,
Let me find it, help you maybe.
Yeah.
Just a second, maybe. Okay, on. So you got how comes to Shavuot Hazeh? Shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu v'sasonu simcha.
Yeah, sasonu v'simcha.
V'chavodu tifaret.
I see, okay. What's that? Eloheinu v'sasonu v'simcha v'chavodu tiferet. Al ha'kol Adonai Eloheinu nachnu mo'odim la. V'rokim otah v'porach shemcha v'fi kochai tamid le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh Yisrael v'ha'azmanim.
Yizkor. Yeah, that book makes it even more confusing than it is already.
Yeah.
And it is confusing. All right. Thank you very much. In a moment, we'll do Yizkor. I'm going to give a sermon now rather than at the normal time after Torah's put away, because I want to talk about Yizkor for a second. Yesterday I talked about one of the songs that runs through my head during Shavuot. Dundai, 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 Eretz Yisrael, B'li Torah, Hikeguf, B'li Nishama. The land of Israel is like Israel without Torah is like a body without a soul. Well, another song that goes through my head is Torah Ora, Torah Ora, Hallelujah, which means the Torah is a light. On Shavuot, Erev Shavuot this year, we didn't do our own study sessions, right? I had us go to the United Synagogue ones. And Deborah Hoffman-Wade had a great experience with it. I not so much. I guess I missed all the good ones. They were at the early times, before the holiday started, or at least the holiday started here. So when I came home from our Shavuot, Erev Shavuot confirmation services, the pickings were kind of slim. And I sat in on a total of 4 of them, 3 on purpose, and they were not good, in my opinion, but whatever, they might have been meaningful to others, but I didn't get anything out of them. And then accidentally, I stumbled on one which I had no intention of going to because it wasn't a study seminar, it was a healing service. But instead of doing a service, the person was talking, and they gave this incredible nugget, which I loved. So was not in vain even for me. Of course, no study's in vain, but this one, I got this little nugget. And they were talking about some sort of commentary to the passage that we read, I think it's from Brachot, which we skip actually, but is in the Siddur, which talks about these are the mitzvot without measure. These are the obligations without measure. Attending the bride and groom, attending the house of study daily, and comforting the bereaved, burying the dead, and then the last one, the Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. The study of Torah goes up against all of them. It's equal to them all. And so, based on that, they were talking about light and Torah, and how every time you fulfill a mitzvah, a little light goes on. It's like you have a flashlight with you, or the flashlight on your phone in today's parlance, and you get that light for just a moment when you do a mitzvah. But the mitzvah's over, the flashlight goes off. But when you have Torah as part of your being, when it's everything to you, when you rely on the Torah as your tradition, it's a light that never goes out. It's more like, I guess, one of those lights that you're wearing on your head, right? And it never gets turned off. And so that's why Talmud Torah is Keneged Kulam. That light is eternal. So are the living Torah, the living Torahs who have now passed on, who have been extinguished. Those who died, those who are going to be remembering today during Yizkor. Those whose lights I had you light yesterday, and those whose lights that the people in this room don't necessarily remember. But while their light is out, they're like a living Torah for the rest of us. They provide a light, an internal guide that never goes out. So when you look at these names, and for the couple of you who weren't here yesterday, I asked everyone who was here to go around to the memorial boards and turn on the lights of anyone that they knew. Anyone that they knew. And you look at some of these names. I mean, my father's on there, but I'm certainly not going to name them all, right? But you go by and you see a Sam Berkovich or a Leonard Fixler, or a David Gallant, Shirley Dorfman. I mean, you are immediately struck by the fact that yes, those people influence us forever. They are a guiding light for us, even if their light has gone out. And so that's why it is Torah Ora. Right? The Torah is a light. Whether it's this physical Sefer Torah that we read from, or it's the way that people live their lives, the Torah that they taught us just by the way they lived. So I'm thinking of that message, and I'm thinking of those people as we turn to page 516 for our Yizkor service today. Torah Ora. The Torah and its people are a light. So 516. Adonai madam v'tedaehu ben enosh v'tchashvehu. There's a time for everything, for all things under the sun. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to laugh and a time to cry. A time to dance and a time to mourn. A time to seek and a time to lose. time to forget and a time to remember. This day in sacred convocation, remember those who gave us life. Remember those who enriched our lives with love and beauty, kindness and compassion, thoughtfulness and understanding. We renew our bonds to those who have gone the way of all the earth. As we reflect upon those whose memory moves us this day, we seek consolation, the strength, and the insight born of faith. Tender as a parent with children, God is merciful with all worshipers. God knows how we are fashioned, remembers that we are dust. Our days are as grass, we flourish as a flower in the field. The wind passes over it and is gone, and no one can recognize where it grew. But God's compassion for all worshipers, God's righteousness to children's children remain age after age unchanging. 70 our years may number, 80 years have granted the vigor. Laden with trouble and travail, life quickly passes and flies away. What are mortals, eternal God, that you should be mindful of them? What are mortals that you should take note of them, that you have made them little less than angels? The sound of infants attests to your power. The magnificence of life reflects your glory. The heavens display your splendor. What majesty is yours throughout the world. Teach us to use all our days, O Lord, that we may attain a heart of wisdom. Grant us of your love in the morning, that we may joyously sing all our days. Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid ki miminik balemot, lachen samach libi ve'agel kavodi, aftikon besari yishkon lavetach. When I stray from you, O Lord, my life is as death. When I cleave to you, even in death I have life. You embrace the souls of the living and the dead. The earth inherits that which perishes, the dust returns to dust. The soul which is God's immortal. God has compassion for all creatures. God has planted eternity within our soul, granting us a share in unending life. God redeems our life from the grave. May we all be charitable in deed and thought, in memory of those we love and walk the earth no longer. May we live unselfishly, in truth and love and peace, so that we will be remembered as a blessing, as we this day lovingly remember those whose lives endure as a blessing. Our generations are bound to each other, as children now remember their parents. Love is strong as death, as husbands and wives now remember their mates, as parents now remember their children. Memory conquers death's dominion as we now remember our brothers and sisters, grandparents, and other relatives and friends. The death of those we now remember left gaping holes in our lives, but we are grateful for the gift of their lives, and we are strengthened by the blessings which they left us, by precious memories which comfort and sustain us as we recall them this day. This time we read whichever of these Yizkor blessings we all rise apply to us. And when they're done, if Susan and Marshall could come up and hold the Sefer Torah as we recite the Amalei Rachamims. these verses. שוכן במרומים, המצא מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה, ומעלות קדושים מותרים גזרה כי המזהירים את נשמות כל אחינו בני ישראל, אנשים, נשים וטף, שנטבחו ושנחנקו ושנשרפו ושנהרגו. בגן עדן תהא מנוחתם, הנ"ל באח הרחמים מסתירם, ושאת כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בתוכם את נשמותיהם. אדוני הוא נחלתם, ויחנכו בשלום על משכבותיהם, ונאמר אמן. Memory of all. אל מלא רחמים, שוכן במרומים, המצא מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה, ומעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר כי המזהירים את נשמות כל אלה שהזכרנו היום בברכה שהלכו לעולמם. בגן עדן תהא מנוחתם, הנ"ל באח הרחמים מסתירם, ושאת כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בתוכם את נשמותיהם. אדוני הוא נחלתם, וינוחו בשלום על משכבותיהם, ונאמר אמן. Exalted, compassionate God, grant perfect peace among the holy and the pure in your sheltering presence, the souls of all our beloved who have gone to their eternal home. May their memory endure as inspiration for deeds of charity and goodness in our lives. May their souls thus be bound up in the shadow of your wings in the bond of everlasting life. May they rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. Amen. You can put the Sefer Torah down if you'd like, because we still have Ashrei to get through. Adonai ro'i lo echsar. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Mourner's Cottage, 524. Yitgadal v'yitgadash Shemei Rabbah, v'elmad yivrach chirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayechon Beit Yisrael, v'galav v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah mevorach leolam l'olmei olmaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei Kudsha barichu, le'elam im kol berchata v'shirata, Tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran ve'oma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromam, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Zichronam livracha, may the memory of the people that you remember, especially today in Yizkor, bless you always. Let us say, amen. We may be seated. 420. Ashrei Hashem Eitzecha od Yalucha Selah. Ladnai daber pi v'varech kol basar shim kodsho le'olam va'ed va'anachnu nevarech ya v'etav yarolam hallelujah. We rise for the return of the Sefer Torah to the Ark. Hallelu et Shem Adonai ki niskaf shemo levato odo al eretz v'shamayim v'yarem keren le'avo tehila lechol chasidav Livnei Yisrael Am Kerovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah, LeDavid Mizmor. And in honor of Frank Weinberg, Seushavim Rasheichem Ve'inasu B'Idkei Olam Ve'avo Melech HaKavod Mize Melech HaKavod Adonai Izuz Gibor Adonai Gibor Milchama Seushavim Rasheichem Ve'inasu B'Idkei Olam Ve'avo Melech HaKavod Mize Melech HaKavod Adonai Tzeva'ot Hu Melech HaKavod Seva Unucho Yomar Eitz Chaim Hi Lemachazikim Ba Betomcheha Me'ushar Deracheha Darchei Noam V'chol Tzivoteha Shalom Hashivenu Adonai Elecha V'nashuva Haneshamenu Kekedem. Remain standing for Musaf. Yikra, Yikra Shemirava, V'mani Vrachute, V'mnich Malchute, V'chaye Chanuv Yomechon, V'chaye Dechol Ben Yisrael, Ba'agala, Uvizman Kariv Imeru, Amen. Ve'eshmei Rabba Mevorach, Le'olam Lal Me'almaya Yiparach. Yiparach, Vishtabach, Viparim Aminaseh, Vitadar, Vitalev, Vitalal, Shmei Kudsha, Berichu, Le'lamin Kol Berchata V'shirata, Tushbecha, Tavenechemata, Damiran Be'alma, Vimeru, Amen. Adonai, Sifatai Tiftach, Ufi Agit Tehilatecha, Baruch Ata Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu. We're on 456. Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot, U'Mevi Goel Livnei B'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ava, Melech Ozer, U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch Ata Adonai, Magen Avraham, Ufoket Sarah, Ata Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechaye Meitim Ata Rav Le'Hoshia Me'Natal, Mechalket Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye Meitim Berachamim Rabim, Zomech Noflim Berofeh Holim, Umatir Asurim, Mekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamo Chabal Givurot, Umido Melech, Melech Meimid, Umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, Vreman Atalcheo Meitim, Baruch Ata Adonai, Mechaye HaMeitim. Na'aritzecha v'na'tishecha kesod ziach, Sarfei Kodesh, Amati Shim Shimcha BaKodesh, Kakatuv al Yad Nevi'echa, V'karazeh, Elzeh ve'amar, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzva'ot b'chol kevodo, Vodo malei olam, V'shartav sholim zeh lazeh, Hayim mekom kevodo, U'matam baruch yomeru, Baruch kevodo Adonai, Mimkomo hu yifen berachamim, V'yachon ha'michadim shemo, Erev avoker b'chol yom tamid, Pamayim ve'ava shema omrim, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad Hu, Eloheinu Hu Avinu, Hu Malkeinu Hu Moshienu, Vehu Yashmienu Barachamam, She'eni Li'enei Kol Chai, She'eni Li'enei Kol Chai, Leot Lachem Elohim. Shem, Matir Adirenu Adonai, Adonenu, Matir Shimcha B'chol ha'aretz, V'Adonai l'melech al kol ha'aretz, V'yom ha'hu Adonai echad, U'shemo echad, U'divrei kodshecha katuv le'mor, Yimloch Adonai le'olam, Elohai Tzion, L'dor v'ador, Hallelujah, L'dor v'ador, Nagiyu l'echal netzach etachim k'rishacha nakti, Shemcha le'inu pinim l'shem l'shelam va'ed, K'nol ha'kerom ha'kedosh ata, Baruch ata Adonai, Ha'el ha'kadosh. Continue silently, 462 to 477. Page 506. Geravi Krashne Rabba. Everybody record Tevam Lichbach Tebachayach, or Yom Echad Beit Yisrael. Agalavis Man Karivi Meru. Amen. Yehesh Me Rabba Mevorach. Neolam Leal Me Omaya Yibarach. Barach v'ishtabach, v'parim erin yaseh, v'tadav v'taleh v'talach shmei kudsha, v'richu, v'lam mikol berchata v'shiratan, sh'vat v'lechabata damiram v'ma v'imeru, v'tikabot zoton v'optal v'chosha, v'rabba v'modi v'shmaya v'imeru, v'shlam ram min shemaya, v'chegnu v'kol Yisrael v'imeru, v'osei shalom b'mromav, v'yaseh shalom, aleinu v'el kol Yisrael, v'el kol Yishvei Tevel v'imeru. Amen. 508. In Keloheinu, in Kadonenu, in Kemalkeinu, in Kamoshienu, Micheloheinu, Mikadonenu, Michemalkeinu, Mikamoshienu, Nodeloheinu, Nedeladenenu, Nodelin Nodel Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shektiru, Avotenu, Lefanecha Ketoret Hasamim. Please rise to the Aleinu, 510. Aleinu L'Shabeach Ladon HaKol, La'tekiru La'leotzer Rishit, Shelo Asanu K'goy Haratzot, Velo Samanu, K'mitfachot Adama, Shelo Samchelkenu Kahem, Megor Aleinu Kechol Hamolam, V'anachnu Korim, U'mishtachavim U'modim, Yifnei Melech, Melchei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shehu Notei Shamayim Ve'yoser Haaretz, U'moshev Yekaro V'Shamayim Mima'al, U'shchinat Uzo, Ushchinat Uzo Begopim Meromim, U'Eloheinu Eidod, Emet Malkeinu Efes Ulato, Kakantu, V'Torato, V'Yadata Ayom, V'Hashivota, Elevavecha, Ki Adonai Hu Elohim, B'Shamayim Mima'al, Ve'ha'aretz mitachanenu. Agachubator techanayim ve'lam va'ed. V'ne'emar v'chaya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz v'yom hahu yihye Adonai echad u'shemo echad. Mourners and those observing your site, please remain standing for the Mourner's Cottage, page 512. Anyone else who wishes to, of course, as well. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Ve'omad yivrach yirutei ve'amlich malchutei v'chayichonu v'yom v'edechol beit Yisrael v'agalav yizman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam l'omei omaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitlamam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei kudsha barichu le'elam in kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata daviran v'yalma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Osei shalom b'imroma u'yasei shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Zichronam livracha, may the memory of the people you're thinking of today be a blessing to you always. All right. Thank you to our Torah reader, Susan Simon, our Haftorah reader, Steve Steiner, and our 2 day in a row, all by herself, greeter, Deborah Hoffman-Wade. So thank you. And thank you to all of you for coming and making our minyan. There is live minyan here on Thursday in the sanctuary. No sign-up necessary. We're still doing sign-ups for our Shabbat services, and that will probably continue through whatever, was it June 15th? The June 15th masking, etc. main order in the state of California. And as I mentioned yesterday, I wish he would have listened to me, and he did. So I'm kidding, but he must have been watching the stream. We needed a few weeks to prepare as we crawl into normality just a little bit, and to get us past a couple B'nai Mitzvah. All good. So Friday night, you can sign up for services, and Eliana Goldstein, who's an 8th grader, will be leading the service with me. She's having a home bat mitzvah the next day. She's leading Friday night with me. Saturday, Chazanit Yael will be here, and both of those are sign-up eligible. So feel free to do so. And there's an annual meeting on Sunday at 9:30. I think that's about it. Thank you, Sam. Thank you. All right, we're going to close more a la yesterday's sermon, Hatikva. Please rise. If you need the words, it is on, it's somewhere in this book. I just don't know where. Oh, wait, it's probably near 824. It says National Anthem. Probably 824. And that's, of course, Star Spangled Banner, but if you keep going, 827, Hatikva. Skipping over America the Beautiful, My Country, 'Tis of Thee, and O Canada. Going to. All right. Kol v'aleva penima, nefesh Yehudi homia, ulfate mizra kadima, ayin letzion Sophia. Olo avda tikvatenu, hatikva bat shnot alpayim, biyotam chovshi be'artzenu eretz Zion Yerushalayim, biyotam chovshi be'artzenu eretz Zion Yerushalayim. Chag Sameach, and let's be safe and careful out there. Oh dear.